Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I am going to be playing scenario number 6 from The Long Road by Flying Pig Games, designed by Mark H. Walker. And this game is a game of World War III with a twist, that twist being that there are paranormal forces involved in the fighting. Several different factions, if you will, one of which is zombies, and that is what we will be having in this particular scenario, facing off as a third combatant in a battle between the United States Army and the Soviet Army, the Red Army. So we have American forces here on the left, Soviet forces here on the right, and in the middle we have 3 hexes that contain zombies, 4 zombie units, I guess, or counters per stack. They were randomly determined. The scenario setup gives a list of 6. I use die rolls to assign which 3 of those 6 hexes would have zombies in them. The victory conditions for this particular scenario are that the Soviet player gets 2 victory points for every non-M113 armored personnel carrier. I'm sorry, my accent slipping through a little bit more than usual there. They get 2 points for every American unit destroyed that is not an M113 APC. They also get 10 points for controlling the bridge at H7, H8 right here. And Americans get 1 victory point for every Soviet unit eliminated. And the Soviets must have at least 8 more victory points than the Americans to win the scenario. And combatants that are killed by the zombies do not count for victory points. So I will make a separate pile for zombie kills so that they do not get counted up when I tally up the victory points at the end of the scenario. This is a 6-turn scenario. I will put a brief kind of recap of the scenario setup in the description rather than explain it all so that we can get right to the action. If you do need an introduction to the way the game works, I did a video that shows some of how the mechanics work, goes into what the counters, the symbols and the numbers on the counters, what do they mean, goes into that kind of stuff, describes the way the game works a little bit. So I would advise that if you are not familiar with how this game plays, you check that out because it's a good background before watching the playthrough. Because the goal here is to kind of move through the game without a whole lot of extraneous explanation. So with that in mind, we're going to get right to play. Scenario setup indicates that the Soviets have initiative in turn number 1 to start. Our sequence of play is here, and I know I'm zoomed out. You probably won't be able to read it very well, but I will zoom in for action here in a moment. But our sequence of play, the first thing is the determination of the initiative. So normally in turns that aren't turn 1, you would roll 1 die for each side to determine who has initiative. In this case, the scenario setup says the Soviets have initiative. They are attempting to take this town, and in particular the river crossing here. The river itself is according to the scenario, a stream, and that actually can be crossed by units for 1 extra movement point. But another thing that's specified in the rules is that the Soviet infantry has to be dismounted. They cannot ride on a tank, and they cannot ride in any of their infantry fighting vehicles or APCs, etc. So we're going to get underway. The second part of the sequence of play is the drawing of action cards, which I already did. So the Soviets drew these 2 cards right here. So we have the second chance and move out. So second chance will let you basically fire 1 unit twice. Move out will let you move 2 units instead of firing. So that's actually going to be useful here in turn 1 because there really aren't any targets for the Soviets to fire at yet. Based on line of sight, we have some forest here. We have a ridge here. We have town, obviously, and then we have some Americans that are behind this. This terrain is called rolling terrain, and it blocks line of sight when you have more than 1 next to each other. So basically, if you're in, you can see through 1 of these, but not 2 or more. So obviously there are more than that. So the Soviet units don't have any visibility on where the Americans are currently. They probably might have visibility here, but I'm going to play it as if they don't know that the zombies are actually zombies. They might think they're just regular civilians, etc. So we're going to get going here. So I drew those cards for the Soviets. This is the Americans card. They draw one at the start, and then each turn each side will get one additional card. This would just add a refugees counter to the map in a town or city hex. I'm not sure how efficient or effective it would be for the Americans to do that. More civilians means possible civilian casualties, which means more zombies possibly in this case. So I will think about whether or not I even want to play that card as the Americans when I'm playing for the Americans. I am playing both sides, so this isn't a particularly solitaire design, but if you play both sides to the best of your ability, I find that it plays pretty well, and I have enjoyed it. I've played all the scenarios up through this point. I'm at scenario number 6. I felt this was a good one to use for a play example because we have one map. Some of them have more maps. We have a paranormal element to the scenario, but not anything too crazy. The counter density is reasonable without being too large. So this seemed like a good one to use, and that's why we're doing scenario number 6. So after the action card phase, we go to the rally phase. Nobody's disrupted, so we don't need to do that. So we move right to the fire phase. Now the fire phase, as I was just kind of describing, the Soviets don't have any visibility on the Americans and vice versa. So nobody is really going to fire. The only one that could really fire would be this T-80 into these zombies. But again, I'm going to play this like they don't know the zombies are there yet. They'll bump into them when they become adjacent to them, and then they'll know that they're there. The effect that will have is that as soon as the conventional forces, both sides, see the zombies, then they're going to get freaked out, and their morale will go down by 1. And if they draw a morale card or morale check card from the zombie deck, which the zombie deck is here, I have it off screen right now, but the zombies draw a card on the movement phase, and that dictates what the zombies do for that turn. So, fire phase, I'm actually going to play this move out card to allow me to move 2 Soviet units here during the fire phase. Okay, so we have our T-80 here, and what I'm going to do with this T-80 is I'm going to do a move and fire, where I'm going to move half the distance, and you can see the starburst here around the 6. That's the movement factor is 6. With a starburst, it means you can do a move and fire. So I'm going to use that move out card to move this unit 3 hexes. So we'll just go kind of in a straight line here. We'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I will put a marker on here. I'm going to put an overwatch counter on here to indicate that they are able to fire. And then I'll move my infantry that's supporting them, essentially. We'll move those 2. That's my 2 units. So now I've used my card and I'm done with that. So now the Americans would get to fire if they chose to. But again, they don't really have visibility on where the Soviets are. The Soviets are now adjacent to some zombies, so they're going to know that the zombies are there. And again, once the zombies actually attack them, which will come up in the movement phase, then they would have a reduced morale for the Soviets and the Americans, because the zombies are near enough that they would be able to interact with the Soviets at the very least. Okay, so we're going to go, that's the end of the fire phase, because nobody on the American side has the ability to fire, essentially, and the Russians are basically done as well. So now we move on to the movement phase, and the way the movement phase works is each side moves all of its units, and then the next side moves all of its units. Since we have 3 sides, we will move Soviets first, they have initiative, then the Americans, and then the zombies will be last. So we're just going to move our infantry 1, 2. We'll move this infantry 1, 2. We'll move our T-80 here. It has a movement factor of 6, as we know. 1, 2, 3. And again, I'm probably going to leave it there and put a overwatch on it. Actually, no, they wouldn't be able to get there. Because of the ridge line, they get an additional movement. So we'll say 2, 3. We'll put them here. We'll put Voronezh with them as well. You know what? We'll go 4, 5, 6. I'm going to move them their full full boat essentially. I'll leave Vorishnov here with the infantry. These guys will move up 2. They're already on the ridge. I guess I'll keep them with their BMP even though they're not going to be able to ride in it. So we'll just go 1, 2. This infantry will go 2. And then the T-80 will follow the road. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to put it on top of the other one. Then we'll go 1, 2, and 1, 2, maybe 3 for the BMP. Just get it out in front a little bit. Another tank. So tanks going into the forest, they require 2 movement costs there. So 2, and then 3 for the road. 4, 5, they'll stop here. Infantry 1, 2. More infantry 1, 2. Forest is only 1 for leg units. It's 2 for wheeled units. So 2, 3, 4. I guess it actually could go there, but I'm going to leave it on the road. I neglected to actually move the camera, so it's probably a little bit unclear what I was doing at the bottom of the map, the southern end. That's this area here. So now you can see what I moved up. We're actually adjacent to some zombies here, so there will be some fighting right here. There will be some fighting here, and there probably will be some, well, this unit will move, so, or rather, this stack at the top, they will move. I just don't know where they're going to move yet. So in the meantime, we're going to slide over here and we'll do the Americans now. So our dragon, I kind of like our dragon's location. I'm going to move this infantry up into the town. I will move, I'm going to move the 1 infantry here, and I'll move the tow here. Hudson, and I'm going to move Hudson up here as well. I'll leave this infantry alone. The rest of this, the southern area, so to speak, down through here, I'm going to leave those guys alone. And we'll just move on to the zombies, and we'll start with the zombie at the top. So we draw a card. And it says, I can't take it anymore. All non-hero combatants in or adjacent to a hex containing zombies must take a morale check. Failing disrupts. If already disrupted, no effect. All right, so that being the case, we have to roll. So right here we have a unit that we have to check. Their morale is 3. Soviet's morale is 3. So he rolled a 4. That's going to disrupt him. Then we have 2 units here that we need to check as well. They're also going to need a 3. So the one on the bottom, we'll do the bottom first. They were good. They're both good, so they do not get disrupted. So now we just have to check these units down here. Again, we have 3 units we need to check. So the T-80 on the bottom there is good. The T-80 on top, however, is not. So since they're both T-80s, I'm just going to drop it on the one underneath. They're identical units. It doesn't really make much difference. And now our infantry will be the last check, and they rolled a 3, so they're good. Okay, so now based on that, we have to do the zombies interaction, right? So zombies have certain rules that they have to follow that describes how they interact and what they do on their movement. Okay, so we're going to start with the zombies move here. So the way zombie rules work is they move towards the nearest unit they have line of sight on. So they don't actually have line of sight on this guy because he's in a city and they're not adjacent. So they can see this unit, however, because they're both on a hill. And he can see across this distance here, or the units can see across this distance here. So they would move in this direction. But if they move here first, now they have the option to go here or here, but I'm going to move them here, which then allows them to see this infantry unit. So now they're going to assault this infantry unit. So the way assaults work is you add up the assault factor of all the units, and the zombies have a 4. And because it's white, that means they have to move into the hex before they can assault. Most assaults, you just move adjacent, and then you can assault into it. Like this American infantry unit has an 8. But zombies and lichens assault from within the same hex. So they have 16, the Americans have 8. So that's a 2-to-1, but we're in a city. So we have to check our terrain effects chart, and a close assault in the city against a leg unit is a 2-column shift to the left. So if we look here on our chart, we have we were at 2-to-1, so we're going to go 2 to the left, make it 1-to-2, and we're going to use this column here. Now I'll roll 1 die, and I rolled a 2, and lower in assaults usually aren't usually rolling lower is better in this game. Rolling lower is usually better. So we rolled a 2 on this column. That's 4 for the attacker and 3 for the defender. So now we have to check morale. So you roll against morale. So the zombies will roll. I'll roll the defender first. So the defender has 3 that he has to check, and his morale is reduced by 1 because he's shocked at the appearance of zombies. So he needed a 3 or lower, and he got 2 4s and an 8. So that's actually going to eliminate this infantry unit. So he's eliminated, and he's eliminated by zombies. So he gets removed from the board, obviously, but he does not count towards the Soviet victory. Now, the zombies themselves took 4 hits, so I need to roll 4 dice for them. Their morale is 2, and they rolled a 1, but also a 3, a 6, and an 8. So they're going to take 3 hits. So 3 of the zombie units will be reduced because they don't disrupt. The zombies cannot be disrupted. They can only be reduced. So they have 1 full-strength zombie unit and 3 half-strength zombie units from that assault. So now we're going to move on to our second zombie. Okay, so here we have a situation where we have 2 units that are adjacent to the zombie. So when you have 2 units that are next to it, the zombies will split. And so 2 will attack here, 2 will attack here. Now there's an optional rule that when you split your zombies, you double them so that they basically would have been 4 and 4. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it simple here, and we'll just do 2 here, 2 here. They're assaulting tanks. So we'll do the upper one first. So again, now we have 8 because we halved it. And the Soviets' defense, this T-80 has a 4, but it's halved because they're disrupted. So it's actually a 2. So it's 8-2, which is 4-1, but they're on a hill, which for an armored fighting vehicle in close assault is a 1-column shift. So that's going to make it a 3-1. So down here we have 3-1. And that's the column we're going to use. So we'll roll 1 die. And we rolled a 1. So that 1 on the 3-1 column here, 3-1, 1, is no hits to the attacker and 8 hits to the defender. So the Russians are going to have their work cut out for them to shrug off these hits because with the morale reduction, they need to roll a 2 or a 1. So I only have 6 die here, but I'm going 6 dice rather. So I'm going to roll them all, and then I'll roll them again. So they did roll 1, 2, but they also rolled 5 that were above 2. So that's going to be 5 hits. Since they're already disrupted, they only have 2 hits to be eliminated, so they're going to be eliminated. So the zombies there did some damage, and they don't take any damage on that because it was a 0-8 because they rolled extremely well. Generally in this game, when you roll on the combat table, if you roll low, it's much better than rolling high. Now down here, we're going to have a slightly different story, most likely. We have, again, 8 for the zombies. We have 2 tanks. I'm going to remove the Overwatch because it doesn't really matter. So they also have an 8. They're in open terrain, so they're not going to get any terrain benefit. But it's going to be a 1-to-1 attack. Now again, they have a 2 as far as their morale because they're scared of the zombies here. So I'm going to roll 1 die. We got a 9. So this one is going to be better for the defender most likely. So here at the bottom in the 1-to-1 column, if we go down to 9, 7 for the attackers, 1 for the defender. So I roll 1 die for the Russians. They rolled a 3, which normally would be good, but in this case is not. So they're going to get a disruption. So they're going to get a disrupted T80 there, and the other one will be fine. Now we have 7 for the attackers. So the zombies are going to get chewed up, which is what you would expect with a tank. Their morale is a 2. They rolled 1, 0, and 5 hits on the first go round. We have 1 more die to roll. So we have 5 hits so far and 1 die to go. And we rolled a 2 on that die. So they take 5 hits. So 5 hits on 2 units. 1, 2 to be gone, 1, 2 to be gone. They're just eliminated. So the zombies, 2 zombies have been eliminated there. We have a disrupted T80 and a non-disrupted T80. And now we have 1 more zombie unit to deal with. Okay, so down here we have a similar situation where we're going to split our forces. 2 will go here and 2 will go over here. So I'll do this one first, and they're in a town, which isn't a city, so the terrain effect modifier will be slightly different. So we have an 8 to 8 before the shift, and in leg unit in a town on close assault gets a 1 column shift. So that 1 to 1 becomes a 1 to 2, so we'll roll for that. And we rolled a 0. So 0 on 1 to 2 is 2 attacker hits, 5 defender hits. So we'll roll the 5 defender hits first. And the Russians rolled pretty good. They got 3. They got a 0, a 1, and a 2, but they also rolled 2 5s. So that's going to be a reduction and a disruption for them. So they're going to get reduced and disrupted. Now we roll for the zombies, and they got 2 hits. So you need to just roll 2 dice. They need a 2, and they rolled 2 4s. So that would be a reduction for both zombies. And since they did more damage than they took, the infantry will retreat, and the zombies will hold that hex. Okay, so now we have the other one to do. So again, we have 8, and we have 2 tanks in here, one of which is disrupted. So that's a 4 and 2 for 6 against 8. So that's going to actually reduce to a 2 to 1. And we have tanks, and they are in forest on a road. So forest gives no benefit to a tank. So we're looking at a 2 to 1. So I'll roll 1 die. We rolled a 9, so this is going to be good for the defender. That's 6 hits for the attacker, 2 for the defender. So I'll roll for my tanks here. And both took a hit. So the one T80 will also be disrupted now, but the one on the bottom is going to be reduced. So we have 2 T80s, one's reduced, both are disrupted. Now the zombies took 5 hits, or 6 hits rather, and they shrug off 2, but they took 4 hits. So 4 hits to the 2 zombie units will kill them as well. So here's our situation at the end of turn number 1. So we had a zombie assault here, which successfully eliminated an American infantry unit and took over that hex. So they're now adjacent to a dragon and another infantry unit. So when the American fire phase comes in turn 2, they're probably going to try to take care of this a little bit. This guy obviously eliminated a T80. And then down here, we had another zombie assault here that was successful in making this infantry unit disrupt and retreat. This one, we got disruption, but the zombies themselves were eliminated. So the zombie forces have been reduced greatly on this first turn, and we'll see how they do. The cards that they get every movement phase could produce more zombies. Or even pukers, which are like zombies that are extra powerful. They have the ability to really do extra damage, especially to armor. So we'll see how that goes, but we're going to finish up round or turn number 1 here. I shouldn't have said the turn was over because it actually isn't. We have to do the housekeeping phase, which in this instance usually means removing moved markers. I didn't put any moved markers down. I should have, but I didn't because I just kind of went top to bottom and moving my units on both sides. But you would typically place a moved marker to indicate that the unit has moved. Here's our move marker. We also have fired markers when you fire. Nobody really fired that round. So no markers to clean up. The next thing would be the aid and the focus. So you get an aid and focus counter for each side. And this would let you re-roll on a rally attempt. And the focus allows you to make sure that your unit doesn't run out of ammunition, among other things. It's just something you typically put with your more important units. So I will put my aid unit, since I'm deploying it for the first time here, I'm going to put it with units that are disrupted. I'm going to put one with this guy right here. And I'll put my focus on my kind of spear point unit, which would be this non-disrupted one. Right here, this T80. And then for the American side, I'm going to put my aid unit probably underneath my toe here. Hudson as a hero, Hudson actually has a luck one that lets him to lose a hit and re-roll. Or re-roll, I should say. And then for my focus, I'm going to give my focus actually to my Abrams here. Now, if I don't use them, it becomes... you can flip it in the next turn and make it give yourself 2 rolls. And if you use it, it gets pulled out, and then you would add it back in at the end of the turn in the aid and focus phase. So now we advance our turn marker to turn number 2. We start turn 2 by rolling for initiative. Now, if there's a tie, it would go to the Americans because the Americans did not hold initiative in turn 1. So Russians roll a 5. Americans roll a 3, so it stays with the Soviets. The Soviets have the initiative. Now we would draw action cards, 1 for each side. So we draw 1 for the Russians or Soviets and 1 for the Americans. The zombies don't draw their card till the movement phase. So the Russians drew, or Soviets drew, the artillery barrage, which is an 8 firepower attack, and I'll use that and show you how that works. And the U.S. drew Lucky Day, which allows you to re-roll up to 4 defensive dice, but you have to accept the second roll. So that's actually a pretty good one to have. Okay, so now we do the rally phase. So since the Russians have, I keep saying Russians, I should say Soviet. Since the Soviets have the initiative, they will roll first. So we'll take a crack at this guy here. So you have to roll their morale or better, or below, I'm sorry. So they actually need a 0, a 1, or a 2 for this to actually work, because their morale is reduced by 1 still through the end of this turn. And then starting in turn 3, they'll have their full morale back because they will have, in theory, adjusted to the presence of the zombies. So they rolled a 3, which normally would work. In this case, it does not. Now we'll roll for this guy. And he also rolled a 3. But we have 2 there. I'm going to roll again for the other unit and roll the 4. Now I'm going to use my aid. I'm going to use my aid counter and give 1 more roll. And I rolled a 1, so it actually worked. So we'll restore the full power T80 to active status, and the aid counter goes off the board. Now they have a disrupted unit up here as well, so we'll roll for this one. Then we'll roll the 7, so that will remain disrupted. So now on the American side, we actually don't have anybody who's disrupted, so we don't need to worry about that. So now we go on to the fire phase. So now we have some options here for our fire phase, because we do have targets available. We have the zombies here that we can fire at with our T80. Okay, so we'll do that. He's got a 10. The range is 2. They're on a hill. Okay, they don't have any, it's high explosive, so we're using the 10 here. So we're using this 10 right here, 2 range. They are on a hill, and it's actually cultivated, but the cultivated won't matter. It's farmland. It's not going to provide any cover, but they're on a hill. So a hill for leg. Well, they get any kind of cover, I guess, gives the zombies a 1 column shift. So they get 1 column shift here. Now we're on the regular fire table here. So we're looking at 10, and they get a 1 column shift to the left because they have some defensive cover basically. So we're going to be rolling in the 8 column. So I'll roll my 1 die. I rolled a 3. So the 3 under the 8 column, 3 is here under the 8 column, gives us 5 hits. So we do the same thing. I have 5 dice here. We roll all 5. They need a 2 to avoid damage. They rolled 1, 0, 1, 2, but they rolled 3 that are higher than that, a 4 and 2 8s. So that's 3 hits. So they're going to lose one of their units, and the other one is going to become reduced. And we're going to put a fired marker on the T80. And we're going to move on to our next fire attack, which will be also against zombies down here at the bottom. So this is actually going to be pretty similar. We again have a T80. It's 10, but they're adjacent this time. So that would be a column shift to the right. But the zombies also get cover for being in the town, which would negate that. So they're just going to be in the 10 column this time. I'm going to roll 1 die once again, and I rolled a 0. Okay, so 0 is critical hit territory. So we're in the 10 column, and the 0 is this red one right here. So you can see X/8. So what that means is, so something like this where we got this X8 here. So the X means eliminated. The /8 is if you're doing like an artillery attack or a mortar attack that hits all units in a hex. And yeah, I totally forgot to do this with those other zombies. But the way this works is, so these guys should actually be not reduced. But so we're only attacking basically one of these units, and so they're eliminated because we rolled a 0. So this one zombie unit's eliminated. The other unit is fine and still exists. We drop a fired marker on there, and I actually screwed that up because the Americans should have been able to fire in between. So I'm going to do the American fire now, and then I'll do a second American fire if there is one. Okay, so in my excitement about killing zombies, I did forget to, the fact that firing alternates between the Soviets and the Americans. So in theory, this attack should have occurred between the 2 Soviet attacks on the zombies. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do a flanking attack, actually. Well, maybe I won't because it's zombies and they're really not that strong. We'll have the infantry attack here. So their firepower is a 6. We're adjacent again, so again, that's a shift 1 to the right. But the zombies have cover, so it's going to negate that and shift it back to the left by 1. So we're in column 6, which is here, column 6. So we're going to roll our 1 die. And we rolled a 1. So 6, 1 is 5 hits. So 5 hits for the zombies. And this will just be this top unit that's not disrupted, I guess. And we rolled, they saved on 1, so they took 4 hits. So that's going to eliminate them. And the other units are fine because you can only attack 1 unit at a time. So we will drop a fired on here. And you know what? I think I'll do another attack and use my dragon, which is here, to attack this unit. So we'll do the same thing. This is going to be a 2. Again, adjacent, and then cover will negate the adjacency, so it's going to be in column 2, which isn't a great column for doing damage, but we're going to take a crack at it anyway. They rolled a 1 as well, so we're rolling really well here. So we're in column 2. 1 is 3 hits. So again, we roll 3 die to see if they can avoid it. Actually, they avoided 2 of the hits, but 1 did get through, which is enough to eliminate one of them, since they're already reduced. So here we have an infantry unit, and underneath that we have a BMP. So we'll have the BMP be the lead unit because its firepower is an 8. Okay. Now the infantry will join in the attack, which they're allowed to do because they're actually in the same hex or adjacent. So in theory, Voronov could also participate, but I'm going to hold him out, I guess, because I don't know that it'll actually do me much good. I think we'll be fine just going with the 8 plus the 2 column shift for using the infantry would be column 12, and then they're going to get a 1 shift. Actually, they won't because they don't have cover. They're also on the hill, so they're level with each other. So this is in column 12. This is probably going to be pretty devastating even without using Voronov. And they rolled a 5. So a 5 on the 12 column. So here's 12. A 5 is 6 hits. So they need to roll really well here because 2 hits will kill them. And they rolled, they didn't miss, they didn't get any saves there. No negations, so they're going to be eliminated as well. I'm going to drop a fired here on my infantry and BMP. Now the reason I didn't use Voronov is now he can still move because he didn't fire. So that's why sometimes it could be tempting to add a little extra firepower, but it might not always be your best move. So something to consider. So that's going to end the firing. I don't think the Americans have anybody that will be firing right now. So we will move on to the movement phase. And again, this will be the Russians moving first. We will have this infantry unit move 2. So they can go 1, 2. We'll move this guy 2 as well. 2. Voronov. And he has his luck counter as well. He can go 1, 2, 3. I need to move this. These tweezers don't do real well at picking up multiple counters at once. So they all get a moved marker just so you can see what that looks like. We'll drop moved markers on these guys. Okay, so for our next move, we're going to move this tank, and underneath it is a BMP. So I'm going to move them both here. So that would be 1, 2, 3. The tank's movement factor is a 6, and the BMP is a 5. And because he only moved half of his movement factor, I'm going to put an overwatch on the tank just in case. Now, the Americans have the opportunity now to use opportunity fire. So we have Hudson here. And underneath Hudson, we have this TOW, which has the 8 on it, right? So the TOW has a wire-guided missile. And it can fire at our tank or BMP. Now, the BMP also has a wire-guided missile on it. I don't know that it can fire back because it moved. So let me put a moved marker on there. And the TOW will fire at the tank. We're going to fire at the tank. So the attack factor is 12. The tank's defense factor is 8, or armor factor. So armor piercing 12 minus the 8 would be 4. But the Russians are in a city hex. And armor in a city hex gets a column shift of 1. But they're also adjacent, so again, it's going to offset, and there won't be any adjustment. So we're looking at the 4 column. Hudson is not participating in this attack. So we're going to have the 4 column, and I'm going to roll 1 die. And again, this is opportunity fire. And we rolled a 0. So a 0 is always good. 0 is a critical hit. And in column 4, it's 5 hits. Okay, so 5 hits. We're going to roll our 5 die. And the Russians save none of those 5 hits. So that's bad news for them, obviously. So you get a reduction, a step loss, and then a removal. So they are dead, and this counts as a kill for the US. So they are out. Now, I need to check the rules real quick to see if this BMP can fire back at the toe because it was a wire-guided missile. So based on my reading of the rules, it seems like it doesn't specifically say they can't do it, but because he moved already and moved more than half of his movement factor, I'm going to say that he can't fire. Now, if he could fire, and just for argument's sake, I'm going to roll. You have to roll a morale check first. The morale is still 2, so that's pretty hard to get. And he rolled a 0, of course. So that would have allowed him to attack. But I'm going to assume that he couldn't attack in that situation. If Mark watches this, he might, or if someone who knows for sure knows that I'm mistaken, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to assume that's not permissible in that situation. Let me drop a fired marker on my toe here. Now we can finish our Russian movement. So we've got this unit over here that we can move. We'll move him up to, well, we'll go 1, 2. And mark him moved. Now we'll move, well, we have this guy here who's a little bit out of the shot, but you can kind of see him. But we also have these 2 right here. So we'll go up the road 1 and go 2. And I'm going to keep the B. Well, I guess it's really no difference to. Yeah, we'll just leave that. We'll just leave them together for now. I'm probably being overly cautious, but no sense risking it if we don't need to. Okay, and we'll move this guy 1, 2, 1, 2. They fired, so they can't move. They're disrupted. So that's going to end the Russians, or the Soviets rather, movement phase, and we'll go over to the Americans now. So this is kind of the situation on the southern part of the American position. So we have a tank here, an M60 Patton. We have an Abrams up here. Here's our mortar. And then we have Hood and infantry and an M113. I'm actually not going to move any of these. Oh, I forgot to put movement markers on some of these other Russian units, which are kind of a little bit off screen for you guys. But I don't really see the point in moving any of these right now. We'll let the Russians come to us and then attack them, I guess, is my feeling on the American side. Okay, so now we're at the zombie phase again, and we have zombies here and here, but we have to draw a card for them first. So I'm going to draw a zombie card, and it says Sharp just bit the Sarge. All right, select random leg unit, roll die, even units disrupted, odd it's reduced but not disrupted. How do I determine which unit? I guess we'll just kind of go with this guy here. We'll take this guy here. We roll 1 die. I zoom back out. It's odd. So according to the card, odd is reduction but not disrupted. So we're gonna reduce him, and that ends that turn. Now I should have used my artillery attack for the Russians or the Soviets in that turn, and I did not do it. I'm gonna save it, I guess, and use it here in turn 3. Coming up, but now we have to do our zombie attacks. So we'll start up here. I probably won't zoom in, just we have 4. Now they would split again. So one will go here, one will go here. This one's going to have terrible odds. That's going to be 1 to 3, which is, it's actually 1 to 4, but it's going to be 1 to 3 because that's the lowest possible. This is 2 to 1, but they're in woods, which would give a 1 column shift for the defender. So that's going to be 1 to 1. So we'll do this one first. 1 to 1. We rolled a 0, which is always good for the attacker. So 0 here on 1 to 1 is 1 and 7. So this is unlikely to end up well for the U.S. defender here. Likely our dragon is about to be dead. So we rolled a 2 and 2 1s. But we took 3 hits, and that's enough to kill this unit. So that unit is dead. Now we have to roll to see what happens to the zombies. They rolled a 0, so nothing happens to them. They avoided any damage. Now we'll do this one, which is going to be a 1 to 3 attack, because that's as low as it can go. And we rolled a 6. So a 6 on the 1 to 3 chart. Here's the 1 to 3 down here. 6 is 7 for the attacker, 1 for the defender. So we'll roll the defender first. They need a 3. They rolled a 9, so they're going to get disrupted. And we'll roll for our zombies. So I'm going to roll all 6 here, and then assuming they survive by some miracle, we'll roll again. So they didn't save any of it, so they're going to be eliminated. So put this fired unit back. Now we'll do the zombies here at the bottom. They'll go after the infantry that's already disrupted here. So this infantry is in the clear terrain, which isn't great for them, but they are on a 1 to 3 though, because again they have it's a 6 to a 2. So zombie attack die roll is a 6. A 6 on the 1 to 3 is again 7 to 1. We'll roll for the defender. They rolled a 3, so again that's going to they're already reduced and disrupted. That is going to kill them. But the zombies are unlikely to survive this either, because they have to roll 7 die. They rolled, yeah, they took 5. One of the dice went all the way over there, but that would have been a hit as well. So they took like 6 hits, so they're dead as well. So there's only 1 zombie unit left. But we will, I believe, even if they all get eliminated, I can still continue to draw cards for them to see if any new ones spawn, I guess. But that is the end of the movement and close assault phases. We'll now go to the housekeeping phase, which again is basically removing all the moved and fireds. So I will do that off camera because it's not exactly exciting. And so now we go on to the aid and focus phase. So we did not use our aid marker here, so we're going to double this. It's now 2. We have 2 rolls there. We would also have 2 rolls here on the Abrams. The Soviet one, I believe is, I forget where oh, there it is. That one gets doubled again as well, because it was not used. I'm going to put my aid marker under the BMP. And that is going to be the end of turn number 2. So we will advance the turn track to 3, and we would start over with our initiative determination. So I'm going to actually stop right now and wrap this up. And, I'll do a second part where I will finish out this scenario. We have 4 turns left. The zombie threat might be over in 1 more turn, unless they draw cards that spawn new units, which is always a possibility. But until then, this I'll just leave this as is. We'll start with the initiative phase for turn 3. We will, go on and do the rallying, and then we'll go into fire, movement, etc., etc. Things will be a lot more conventional appearing now. Going forward, we have Americans and Soviets in contact, at least right here. We also have the line moving forward. The Soviets do need to capture this hex to win the battle. Right now, the Americans are up by 1 victory point because they have killed 1 Soviet unit. The Soviet Union has not killed any of the American units yet. So, until next time, my name is Joe. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would. I would definitely very much appreciate that. But this has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.